As alluded earlier, we have in studio none other than Dr. Juliet Kimemia, who is an entrepreneur and governance expert and also worked as a CEC in the county government of Kiambu. And also joining us in studio live is Pius Nunda, who is the Director Finance and Administration, Howard and Associates Strategic Consulting Limited. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We are so glad that you made time for us on this day that Kenya has had its maiden, what can we call it, Ruto's maiden budget,
yeah.
2022-2024. Your immediate thoughts. Let's start with Mr. Pius.
Thank you so much, Tess, and good evening, everyone. I just want to say that this being the very first budget of the Ruto-led government, a lot of things that can be seen, given that it is just about 9 months since they came into office. I must appreciate that across the nation, what we have seen is what I would call a good balance in the budget, although with a few areas that can still be looked at. Yes, so in a nutshell, I would say it's a budget that is well balanced, but of course, when we delve in, we'll be able to give further thoughts.
Well, welcome, Dr. Juliet. This is perhaps one of the most ambitious budgets that Kenya has had. What's your take on 3.7 trillion budget?
It's actually not 3.7. It's 4.4 trillion budget.
Explain,
what is 3.7? What is 3.7 is the general budget. But when they are presenting it, or in the budget policy statement, there is what we call appropriation in aid, which is a few hundreds billions, and there's also conditional grants. So that is how it's coming to 4.4. Yeah, so it's 3.7 billion, but in the books, because of including what is called appropriation in aid and the conditional grants, it comes to 4.4. It is the highest ever since we got independence. It's very ambitious. And to me, like my colleague has said, it is quite balanced because yesterday we saw the finance bill being debated and being unpacked by the chairman of the finance committee. And today we have seen what is going to be financed by what was proposed yesterday. So it is workable, especially if what the minister has proposed as amendments in the policy and legal frameworks are implemented.
Would you help us understand why the executive tends to get the lion's share, 2.2 trillion of the budget?
It is it is quite interesting that all the time the executive gets the lion's share. Counties got is it
6 something
and 86 billion?
Yeah.
Roughly.
And plus conditional grant, they got 420 something. Why is because a lot of money goes to the ministries. Like, for example, if you look at the ministry that has the highest allocation is Ministry of Education. It got over 600 billion.
Yes.
Ministry of Health, Ministry of Infrastructure, and all those really are in the executive. So they take the lion's share of the budget, they take the lion's share of the responsibilities. And to me, it is in order.
Yeah, I would just add that, a lot of functions are still being controlled by the national government. So key ministries. So you'll find some of the dockets, some of the ministries that haven't been devolved, still have to be funded from the national government. Yeah. So of course, when you talk about the executive, you want to look at all that goes from State House to the various ministries and all that. Yeah. So, but of course, it's a budget that it's high compared to even what will go to the county governments. Yeah, so it's almost almost 5-6 times. Yeah, so that's quite high. So because we also know that even some of the functions that have been devolved, you still have some of the need is being taken care of at the national government. Yeah.
There is this issue of pending bills, especially in the counties, that has been allocated over 500 billion shillings
Yeah.
today. What do you think that the government should do to curb this issue of pending bills? It's been cropping up in the counties, in the national government, everywhere.
Yeah, I know Dr. Kimemia might weigh in, having worked in the county government. I have never worked for the any government, but I from what I know, it's a budget that has been given, and of course, even in entirety, the budget that has been given, we appreciate that the government does not have all that money, yeah, together. So even the 500 plus billion that has been set aside to be able to take care of the pending bills does not necessarily mean that that money is there. However, maybe one of the things that we would advise is that the government, for example, and that is county government, for example, needs to prioritize, some of those bills, because you find some bills are pending as far as when the evolution was implemented for the very first time. So what we would advise is that some of those pending bills needs to be prioritized, so that they don't become an issue year after year. Yeah, so maybe that's what I can say for now about the pending bills. Yeah.
Yeah. To add on what my brother has said, the budget making process vis-a-vis absorption of what has been allocated are two totally different and extremely contradicting issues. Because like now, my county of Kiambu, just the other day, they passed a supplementary budget of 17 billion on top of the 9 billion that is allocated from the equalization or revenue share from the National Treasury Exchequer. They are expecting to raise own revenue, and the grants are also included in that. So if they are not able to raise own revenue, and if they're not able to, the National Treasury is not able to release the funds. Like now, it is 4 months late in releasing the funds. So that is where all these pending bills come from. Because you have budgeted, you have contracted, but the payments are delayed, or the money, like what my friend has said here, the money is never there. So if there's anything that has confused me all my life, is why every year in, year out, budgets are raised, knowing very well that the money that will be generated will not be able to finance that development. Another issue is the policy of financing development. Like now, listening keenly to what the professor said today, the money that is available is what was audited in 2019. So the money that will be spent on this budget, you see it is of 4.4 billion, but the money that is available to finance it is what was collected in 2019 and has been audited. So the fiscal policy is very complicated and not practical at all. So I am a bit disappointed, because I was expecting that we'll either maintain the last financial year's ceiling, but now adding 700 billion, knowing very well that it will just continue building up the pending bills. And in the meantime, the middle class has really, really, really suffered because of the pending bills. Businesses have closed. Employment opportunities have been busted, because if you are owed 30, 40 million and you had a factory, or you did you did some road construction, or you built a market, all the people who are working for you will not get jobs. So pending bills have had a very negative.
What's your recommendation on elimination of pending bills going forward, having worked in the county?
It's
Yeah.
the most frustrating thing because from my own experience, every day I had 4 or 5 contractors coming to my office telling me, Waziri, please help me get paid. And I'm like, imagine I can't because it's not possible. Because when the money is released, it pays the pending bills that have been in the IFMI system. You know, there is a integrated financial management system, and you cannot jump the queue. So you go to the county right now, you will get pending bills of 2014, of 2015. They have to be paid first. Then, of course, when governors come in, they have spent a lot of money in campaigning and, you know, so there's a lot of manipulation of the system so that what is paid is for either friends of the governor or people who funded the campaign and, you know, or even the governors themselves trying to recover their losses for their campaign. So those pending bills remain there, new ones are created, and it's a total mess. It's
Well,
a total
we
mess.
hope that some measures will be put in place going forward, because I heard the Deputy President speaking about auditing those pending bills, that there are some of them that are viable, some of them that are not. But oh well, we wait to see what the government will do. Perhaps Pius, help us understand.
Let me comment on that issue of auditing.
Yes.
It is a very political statement.
What do you mean?
Very, very political, because looking at 2017, many of the governors never came back, right? So whoever came and took over the counties was competing with the governor that was incumbent now 2013, 2017, right? So many of them, many of the governors that took over in 2017 said they will not pay pending bills of the previous regime because the money was used to fight them. You know, because it was a contest, and this contest has a lot of enmity. So they use that word auditing. We are auditing, and we will not pay. But in black and white, in truth, they will not pay because the money was used for campaign.
I believe that's debatable.
Yeah.
That's quite debatable, because we have had governors come in and talk of ghost workers and people that were being paid that did not exist, and businesses. So I feel it's debatable, but we get your point. Let's move to the revenue generation, Mr.
Yes.
Pius. KRA is expected to raise over 3 trillion now to be able to finance this budget. Is this sustainable? How viable is it?
Yeah. I want to say that Kenya Revenue Authority is one of the, of course, is the key revenue generator for the government. And we have seen over the years, KRA has always been surpassing any given target. And we have seen that from when we had a budget of 1.7 trillion, and they would, you know, they would reach to about maybe 1.3, 1.4. And of course, you know, the budget has been actually the last, I would say, about 10 years. We have seen an upward trend of the budget, of course, going up because of many other reasons. Population increase, you know, development from here and there. But what I would say that even if KRA were to hit that target of 3 trillion, the challenge then we have as a country is just like what Dr. Kimema was saying. We have the budget that the common Kenyan know, leave alone the 4.4 that she's talking about, the 3.6 something, that's 3.7. We are at a point where KRA has been given a target of 3 trillion. And we know then there's a deficit, obviously, of about 700 billion.
Yeah.
Now, we have a deficit, and how we have always been expecting to bridge the gap between our income and the budget is to borrow. So again, so we are going to borrow about 702 billion. But you remember where the catch is. Already, as a country, we are at 9.6 trillion debt,
Yeah.
leaving us with just a window of about 400 billion that we can borrow. So then what will happen? And then of course it means that if we then borrow the 400 billion, then we will have hit the mark, unless now the bill goes back to the parliament for amendment, so that we are allowed to be able to to break the ceiling. I remember at one point it was 9 trillion, so it was revised. So coming back to your question, KRA are capable, by the way, of raising the 3 trillion in target, only if they are able to use all possible avenues to net. The challenge that we have been having, Tess, is that yes, we have been talking about VAT, excess duty, and many other taxes that generate income. But the government, KRA, I am sure, one of the challenges that we have seen is that they have not been able to close the possible loopholes that make them keep, what I would call, make them miss the target, simply because by many other persons who are supposed to be paying taxes, dodging KRA or in one way or the other. But otherwise, Kenya Revenue Authority, I think from where they are, the target of 3 trillion is well achievable. So now the challenge that we have is how then the government is going to bridge the gap between the proposed revenue to be generated and the budget.
You talked about the deficit, which projections by the government is that there will be some borrowing locally for about over 500 billion. Yeah. So that means that the government is trying not to hit the ceiling, because whatever remains is less than 400 billion, as you had mentioned. What's your take in terms of internal borrowing? Are we able to give the government over 500 billion shillings? That means locally, isn't it?
Through treasury bonds.
Yeah.
We have to. We have the capacity and potential. If the government really solidifies the PPP infrastructure, they will be able to harness a lot of private sector investments. Then I saw the professor talk about a Eurobond that is maturing, I think of more than 1 trillion in 2024. And once that has matured, then we'll be able to inject some energy in our fiscal infrastructure. But what made me excited about today's budget is the proposals for policy and legal frameworks amendment to strengthen KRA. Like, for example, they talked about betting and how difficult it is to get to net the money that that circulates in, and that is a very lucrative business sector, and it has very many players. So there is a recommendation for a review of the law, so that KRA will be able to maximize the netting of the 5% tax. The same applies to the digital infrastructure, or they're calling it superhighway or something like that. There is a proposal to amend the law to enable the KRA get the legal muscle to collect. So a lot of money will come in. There is also a proposal for criminalization of imposters. There are very many people who pretend that, in quotes, they are KRA, and that is where a lot of people escape paying taxes. So they work in cohort, and you'll find them even in the corridors of KRA. So there's a proposal that the law is amended that anybody who is an imposter will be subjected to criminal justice. Then there is a proposal for for the PPP infrastructure. There's even a fund that has been proposed. So all that combined will give a lot of incentives to the private sector. And if the proposals they have put in for paying pending bills are actualized and prioritized, then we will have very many companies revive, new industrial activities happening.
Unfortunately, our time is is spent. I just want us to conclude on an issue. Azimio members of parliament walked out of the reading of the bill. I don't know, what are your sentiments on any implication on the budget? Does it make it null and void? Does it affect it in any way?
Oh, okay, thank you very
Or
much. And I just
what do you
wanted
take of it?
to add to that issue of KRA, then I'll come to that
shortly, very shortly.
You know, with the proposed policy framework and the legal framework is very good, by the way. But one of the demerits we have as a nation is the whole issue of corruption that we don't want to talk about. KRA might be in a position, might have muscles, might be strengthened to be able to even to, net even up to 3, even over and above that. But if the loopholes are not closed, then we are as good as doing, ourselves and nothing. Now, the question that asked about the Azimio legislatures walking out, and of course, by and large, because we have not even, I know time is over, but we have not even dug into the budget itself. Certain areas that we feel should have been, reviewed. It's being said this is the hustler's budget, yet that real hustler is feeling left out there, and we know the cry. I want to say this, that, and this is what I said at the beginning when we were starting, that it's not that the budget in entirety is imbalance, and that's why we say we saw a lot of balance. However, there are certain areas that the president and because the president is the leader of the government. I mean, this is his government, and he would whatever want to have his way in whichever manner. And we saw yesterday during the passing of the bill. I mean, if you want something to be passed, and the numbers are there in the parliament, what as a Mio leaders should have done, and this is what I wanted to say even as I conclude on that matter, because not every section of the budget was wrong. I would, if I were them, unfortunately I am not, I would have sat, because whichever way they're working out does not change anything. The budget has been passed. Actually, the CS coming to read the budget is not reading so that it seeks approval for the budget to be implemented. This is a budget that is reading something that had been passed already by the finance committee, parliamentary finance committee. So this is just a statement. So by them walking out, of course, in protest, but that does not pour cold water into the budget. Does not mean that the budget, it will just speak out there that majority of the people are dissatisfied because look at the cost of living. Honestly, if I were the government, or if I were in the position of the people who are developing the budget, or one of the things we would have been very intentional about, to ensure that we do everything possible to reduce the cost of living. It's just been 9 months. For whatever reason, I do not know, that since the new government took over, and Dr. Kimema, you'll correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Sugar has doubled. True or false? I bought sugar at 229 shillings before the elections. And these are the realities. Today, how much is sugar? 430. That is 400. Some places, actually, up country, it is 500 shillings. So that is more than double. Look at the cost of unga. And these are the basic commodities. So if the government would have been more intentional to look at what matters the most, because you will talk about many other things, talking about the development fund, talking about, we have had all these policy reviews talking about TVET, empowering young people. And of course, in there also, those young people are complaining that, they have not been given their due. What is really due to them?
Thank you,
so I would, just to be able to answer that, I would say it was very unfortunate, but of course, as an expression of that, they are standing with the people. But I can assure you, the poor people, the common person, the people on the ground. I've slept in the places they sleep every day, today, even without walking out. That does not mean that those MPs have gone to, to feel with them where they live or to go and dine with them where they dine. No. It was just a show of disappointment for the fact that some of the information in the statement were not favorable
Dr.
to them
Juliet,
and many others.
shortly, please, because time is up.
I was a bit disappointed by the walkout, particularly because on the public gallery there were very many students who had come to listen to the budget, and that was not a good show. I think yesterday's voting no was sufficient to send their statement, but walking out was extremely disrespectful to the nation and to all of us, and even to those children. We need to lead by example, and we need to demonstrate a spirit of tolerance. Number two, I want to support the sentiments of my friend.
Yes.
The budget was extremely quiet on maize, on sugar, on coffee. Even after the big conference, we went to Meru with Rigiji. It was quiet on rice and very loud on cotton and leather. Extremely unrealistic. In that aspect, I would really call for a review. Whatever has been allocated to leather and cotton needs to go to rice, maize, and sugar. It is extremely important. And it's a lot of money that has been taken to cotton, which was actually the amount allocated last year. And I don't think, you have ever seen a cotton farm in this country? So they need to stop lying, and when they start discussing item by item, my proposal is they reallocate. We don't need cotton, we need rice, we need sugar, and we need maize.
Thank you, Dr. Juliet Kimemia. That is a good place to end it. And Dr. Pius, can I call you doctor as well?
Thank you. Some of these things are still invitation.
We have barely scratched the surface. I know there was so much we can talk about, but unfortunately we don't have enough time. Maybe we can do this another time. But thank you so much for making time for us. Dr. Juliet Kimemia, who is a governance expert and also was as a CEC in the county of Kiambu.
Yes.
So we really appreciate you, Pius Nunda, Director, Finance and Administration, Howard and Associate Strategic Consulting Limited. And that's where we conclude the interview this evening. We'll be back with sports news.